Good morning. How's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Thursday, or Wednesday, excuse me. Already one day ahead of myself. Wednesday morning, could be afternoon or evening for some of you guys, or it could even be the next day, Thursday. Either way, it is August 27th here, 2025, 11:18 a.m. California time. Latest activity here shows a 1.3 earthquake across the Oklahoma area. Looking at the globe here overnight, showing some newer activity scattered out and about, mainly across this area of the globe. Clustering going on here across the Indonesia area, also around the Java Trench. Got some pretty good activity. Also a little bit of movement up here around the Nankai Trough. So let's go see what we got there for the Japan Meteorological Agency here real quick. I've been kind of quiet out there in the last few weeks with earthquake activity around the Nankai Trough. I'm looking for any swarming going on. Looks like there's a couple earthquakes here around the, it's called the adjacent sea of the Tokara Islands. That's around the southern end of the Nankai Trough area. There's a 2.4 and a 3.3 this morning. I don't see any signs of any swarming going on. Looks like maybe another one earlier as well. It's a region that's capable of producing some large megaquake activity. It's a subduction zone here. You can see it a little bit more prominent on the oceanic crust map here. South coast of Japan. Big time stress building up here recently, and it's capable of producing some megaquakes. There's that deep earthquake on the backside of Japan from yesterday. Some further activity here around Taiwan with a 5.3 this morning. And a number of smaller quakes down here across this area up towards the southern end of the Nankai Trough, indicating strain and pressure building up in this area right now. No major swarm, no big earthquake activity there for now, but we'll definitely watch that as it has some potential. Up into the Russia area, there's that 6-pointer from yesterday. Looks like maybe one more aftershock there of a 4.9 just after midnight. I'm sure there's some smaller quake activity in the mix as well. New Zealand, pretty quiet. I'm going to go down and add this just a little bit more as far as the time frame goes, because it looks like that 6-pointer was about ready to drop off the globe as far as the 24-hour threshold goes, but that happened about 8 o'clock last night. So we got a ways to go before 8 o'clock, so I want that to stay up there as far as the last 24 hours go here on the Earthquake 3D globe. All right, let's check out West Coast here real quick. We'll start up here in Alaska. A couple earthquakes in the last hour here. Nothing major going on. 2 earthquakes of above a magnitude 2.5 level. But aside from that, it looks like a typical day up there in Alaska. Across the Pacific Northwest here, got some earthquake activity around Mount Rainier, and also looks like some outside of Yakima as well, around the eastern crest, or eastern side here of the Cascade Mountains from this morning. So let's go see what we got across the Mount Rainier area. See if there's anything stirring up out there today. Probably be able to see that 2-pointer listed on the graph as well. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. That was about, about 8 o'clock this morning, 8:41. The distance over there, about 25 miles or so from Mount Rainier, but it should show up here, 8 o'clock this morning. More than likely going to be this earthquake. This kind of looks like a distant event away from the area, so that's going to be that 2-pointer. As far as local seismic activity, I still believe there's some earthquake activity there across Mount Rainier, and in fact they're reporting one of them this morning, a little 0.3, 935 on the northern flank of Mount Rainier. That, let's see, 935. 935 would match, well, this is 10, 935. It's got to be this one right here. That would match a 935 time period. So if we got this one, what about all these other ones? You know, there's still earthquake activity occurring out here. What decides them to just pick one out of the mix here and then post it up? I don't know. You know, I'm not there for their Monday morning meetings and whatnot and the chit chatter, but there's definitely some earthquake activity still continuing. What about that one from yesterday? You know, that's an earthquake. There's an earthquake. I'll give them credit. Maybe some of these are ice quakes, but not all of them are. Some of those are earthquakes as well. So let's go see what's happening there across Mount St. Helens as well, because it's been having some earthquake activity itself. Go down here and see what we got across the dome area. A couple earthquakes here. Those are legit earthquakes. No doubt about it. Those are not ice quakes. Those are not rockfall. It's not distant earthquakes either. Let's go see what they're reporting. Got a couple earthquakes listed up here on the map from yesterday and today. 3 earthquakes. Very minor earthquake activity, with the latest a little 0.1, 9:13 a.m. this morning. So 9:13 a.m. is going to be, wow, maybe one of these. See that little red mark there? So if you're going to pick one of those very, very small ones, why not some of these? 21:55, so just before 10 o'clock last night, another one, very shallow earthquake up there across the summit area of Mount St. Helens. That's at just before 10. Just before 10. It looks like that's going to be this one right here. So that one did show up. What about this one, though? What about this one and this one? What about all the quakes in between? Like I say, I don't know who decides to say, all right, let's choose this one. You know, pick one out of the 20 or 30 earthquakes and then go for it. But there's been some earthquake activity out there. What about yesterday afternoon as well? That was about 2:30 or so. Was that listed? It was not, because it should have been up here. It's not quite 2:30 here along the West Coast, so it's not past the 24-hour threshold. Nothing being reported, though. But that's a legit earthquake, and the amplitudes here were squashed compared to today's event. So that earthquake that I just showed you would show up bigger on a graph like this today. The amplitudes are a little bit, looks like they're a little bit more turned up in terms of picking up the data. Either way, earthquake activity, Mount St. Helens, Mount Rainier continues. Not any big swarming going on, but I guarantee you it is continuing. Some earthquake activity there around the Seattle area, Salem, Oregon, in the valley here. Nothing big. Cascadia subduction zone, pretty quiet for now. A couple more earthquakes outside of Redding, south of the Battle Creek Fault. It's a fault system there in the northern Sacramento Valley that's it's been having a little bit of earthquake activity out here recently. Things starting to move. A lot of stress being produced out here across the Cascadia subduction zone. Building up, right? We get that crustal quakes and sometimes deeper quakes underneath this area. That's a sign that this area of the subduction zone is highly strained, right? I wouldn't say this is lightly strained. 325 years ago, we had a 9.0 earthquake. So think about what's been occurring in that 325 years. Strain building up. And it's showing a lot of earthquake activity across the Cascades and in stress events. A lot here across the Cascadia in terms of surface fracture across the Cascadia fold and thrust belt. That's why they call it that, because this is folding in on itself because of the subduction of the Juan de Fuca plate underneath the area. A lot here in Northern California, a lot happening across the southern end as well in the last 30 days. Today, not so much, but we'll continue to watch that. It could be any time now where we see that big event happen. That's not a fairy tale, and it's not fear-mongering. That's just straight-up science and time. Geology, right? Geology, basically, it's all about time building up. Plate tectonics require time and stress. And that up there, it's had a lot of time to think about and a lot of stress to build up on that region. Nothing above 2.5 across the West Coast for now. Southern California, handful of smaller quakes out here. It does look a little bit more active today than what it's been here in the last 5 or 6 days. Mainly smaller microquake activity, but one thing I'm noting is a lot of microquake activity across many different fault systems. There's not just one fault. It's not just the San Jacinto fault zone, which is pretty much active every day. But the Elsinore fault quite elevated as well from north to south, all the way down here. Even some activity around the Long Beach area. Got a couple earthquakes This morning stirring up 2.0 and a 1.4, so things are on the move. Things are on the crunch out here, so to speak. So watch that. Could see some larger activity out here when things get moving. Not relieving strain at all. It might be local. Well, these little quakes here, just overall pattern of increasing pressure across the area. Not relieving pressure. It's increasing here in the area regionally. Some activity across Utah up into Yellowstone as well. Got a couple earthquakes there around Yellowstone Lake, including a 2.3. Well, that's up around the Mammoth area. So let's go see what's going on. That was from yesterday as well. I wonder if that swarm stirred back up out here. So there's the earthquake activity. I checked this seismograph station here. There's the one from last night. That's going to be the 2.3. Let me pull this back up so you guys can see. That would match this time period just before 11 for a 2.3, showing up quite nicely there. This is going to be my time here, West Coast time. A couple other smaller quakes in there as well. This one between 4:30 and 5 matched this one right here, a little 0.9 around the Hebgen Lake area. And then there was a 1.4 a few minutes later. So maybe within that shadow of that quake, those two earthquakes occurred. But since then, I don't see anything major going on. There was some over here across the Lake Yellowstone region, but let's see what we got here. They have them listed on the map, two of them, a 1.5 and a 1.8. So these should definitely show up on the seismograph stations here. Okay. The cursor of the mouse is so big it's hard to click on the right seismograph station down here. But obviously that one's not working. There's another one back over here that's offline as well. Yeah, that doesn't leave too much out here, does it? Maybe further down here. This one's working. There's some of the activity from last night. The ones happening this morning there, I guess they're too light to be picked up on this seismograph station. So nothing big going on, but a little bit of earthquake activity there across Yellowstone. Same for the oil fields of Texas and Oklahoma. Got a couple earthquakes outside the OKC area. Northwest of El Reno, got a little swarm out here. I believe there's some oil fields out here. I've traveled a lot out here in the Oklahoma area when I'm out storm chasing. Perfect time for a train to go by. These here look like oil pads, identical. So it is out there in some oil-filled areas. Sometimes they'll mention it here on the map that there's oil fields. But it looks like, yeah, see there's gas and oil fields all over the OKC area, and for sure out here outside of the El Reno region. So we are getting some earthquake activity out there in the oil fields of Oklahoma. New Madrid seismic zone got one earthquake this morning, a 1.9. Also some further movement around Tennessee and South Carolina area. A little bit of activity out here in the last 24 hours. Nothing big, but the North American plate looks like it's on the move. As far as New Zealand goes, pretty quiet. Haven't seen anything show up here, at least reportable earthquakes in the last couple days. Do have to watch that. That's our quiet area now. Most of the newer movement back over here across the regions that you're seeing on the globe. Last time we've seen something like that happen, we've seen a big increase in earthquake activity across the Western Pacific. So we do have to watch that. This whole region out here is kind of a crunch zone in itself, aside from the Indonesia area. If you look at the general plate stress models, that's going to be back over here across the Indonesia area. Got all the arrows kind of pointing in one general fashion. I call it the crunch zone. I mean, there's obviously some other words for it, but I kind of like the crunch zone wording. So I'll just kind of watch things here today, see how it plays out. Some older activity there from yesterday down across the South Sandwich Trench and the area around Drake's Passage area where that 7.5 struck like almost 2 weeks ago now. Nothing major going on there across the Middle American Trench or the Peru-Chile Trench down there. The Atlantic Ocean, pretty quiet. Excuse me. Let's go see what's going on across the... stand by for a second here. Kilauea Volcano. Thought I had my drink in here, but I don't. I don't want to run out the kitchen and get it, so I'll survive. I just want to see what's going on here across the Kilauea Volcano. It's been having a little bit of interesting activity here in terms of inflation in this last pause in between eruptions. Kind of had a little downturn. Now we're starting to go back up. Getting some earthquake activity out there in the area of Hawaii as well, the Big Island. Over the last 7 days, some interesting movement up around Mauna Kea and on Mauna Loa as well. Pretty shallow earthquake there across Mauna Loa. These are earthquakes underneath the Mauna Kea area, about 8 miles or so. But a little bit more active in terms of movement here across the hot spot that Hawaii Islands are consisting of. Obviously, they go back in time. As you can see, they've moved. Well, they haven't moved. They may have moved on the map here, but the Pacific Plate is the culprit for the movement and the appearance of the chain of islands out here. Space weather activity. Let's take a look, shall we? Still getting bombarded with protons out here, mainly affecting the northern polar region. Got this occurring for about 5 days now. Pretty decent proton event. As far as any flaring activity goes, it does look like we had a near M flare overnight. Things look like they're calming down on the map. Let's see what we got here for the sunspots. So, got a pretty decent, massive coverage area back over here on the southeastern quadrant of the sun. This area still needs to be watched here for some stronger flaring. This region back over here looks like it's degraded a little bit since last night. There's last night's imagery. Starting to fade off a little bit, but we will watch that. Either way, I still think we're going to see the likelihood of some stronger flaring here in the days ahead. Maybe waiting. It just may be waiting until it's directly in the direction of Earth. My birds are going crazy too. If I leave the light on for them out there, they just start squawking like crazy. I don't know if you guys can hear them or not, but I do believe we got some stronger flaring activity here. Also, it looks like this region here is starting to complex a little bit, get some magnetic structure and complexity. This area, where'd that come from? 4200 here just kind of popped up out of the blue or out of the yellow, depending on what image you're using of the sun. This one's developing quite rapidly here, so we have a number of sunspots here. Any of these I think are capable of producing some stronger flaring, mainly back over here. But the way this one's growing rapidly, we do have to watch that as well. It's directly facing the Earth right now. And look at the UV image here of the sun. Does show some brightness, definitely back over here in these regions. A lot of magnetic arches and lines all over the place. That's when you get the special spark, so to speak, between the magnetic polarities there of the sunspots, and that can produce some stronger flares. We'll watch that. 60% chance there for an M flare. X flare around 10 to 15% chance. I have 15% chance here on my my forecast for solar flares. Proton event still elevated at 95% chance there. No major roars in the forecast for now. Taking a look here at the next close approach asteroids from the NASA website. We'll see what we got going on today. This one's under 1 million miles, but still pretty far in distance-wise. 75 foot, newly discovered asteroid. Aside from that, millions of miles away for the remainder of these. Some of those, actually all of these here, are all newly discovered. Crazy, discovering asteroids here every single day. All right, what else we got here? Storm Prediction Center. Not a whole lot here for severe weather. Got maybe a little wind and some small, well, moderate hail. I don't think anything softball size, but 5% chance here for some hail damage or large hail with these thunderstorms. But that's about it. A lot of thunderstorm activity there across the Sierra Nevada mountains once again. Let's take a look here at the numerical models, see what we got for the tropics out here. Going to look at the Atlantic, and we're going to pull up the wind, see what we got spinning out there in the warmer waters of the Atlantic. Well, right now, nothing. I don't see anything of any development almost into the middle of September. Obviously, this could change, but goodness, pretty quiet out there for hurricane activity there in the Atlantic. Eastern Pacific, pretty active out there, but I don't think we got any threats going on to Hawaii or anywhere around California. Let's see what we got here. North Pacific, one down here off the coast of Mexico. For the most part, those have been just entering into the Pacific and dying off as it gets into the cooler waters. Looks like the jet stream's starting to dip right here. It'd be nice if that dipped across the west coast. Let me tell you, I would love that. Because we just got temperatures around 100 degrees here for the next week and a half or so. At least that's what they're showing on the models and on the weather forecast. There's the cooler weather out there across the east. Wish I had some of that, a little taste of fall. That is looks like it's gonna stick around for a little bit, at least a better part of the first week of September, and then high pressure maybe building back in across that area. A little bit of troughing being observed out here across the west coast. Notice that dip here in the pressure differences. Well, I'll keep my fingers crossed for that. I'm so ready for fall. I'm not even joking here. I wouldn't care if it went from 100 degrees down to 60 degrees for the rest of the winter. I would be okay with that. All right, seismograph stations out here. Pretty quiet across the board for now. Got, see, there's a couple more earthquakes there on the Mount Rainier station. That's Mount Rainier seismograph station, showing some earthquake activity. So we'll just kind of keep it like this right now. By the way, the seismograph stations that you see up here, this is a station in Chile along the Peru-Chile Trench. Parkfield, that's along the San Andreas Fault there in California. Station there in Russia, that's the Kuril-Kamchatka station that picks up the earthquake activity there. Kagoshima, that's around the southwestern side of the Nankai Trough. It does look like there's a little bit of earthquake activity here, but I know the wavy lines are a little distracting, but there's a couple smaller quakes there. We do got to watch that. Yellowstone, Lake Yellowstone, maybe a couple smaller events. Hard to tell on that one. Definitely some earthquake activity across Mount Rainier. New Zealand, pretty quiet for now. And Anza down there in Southern California. Not a whole lot going on those for now as far as the seismograph stations go. But we will catch you guys out here a little bit later on this evening, folks, for the Wednesday night update. Don't forget to subscribe and make sure you give us a like, click that thumbs up, and we definitely appreciate it. Have a good one.